Unlucky draw from now on for the Champions League quarterfinals for the Italian sides. They'll be facing Real Madrid and Barcelona. It's Italy versus Spain. Juventus, Real Madrid and Roma versus Barcelona. Not the luckiest of draws for the Italian teams, who will be facing two of the best, if not the best, clubs in Europe. Real Madrid have won the two most recent editions of the Champions League, beating Juventus in the final last season, and Barcelona won it 3 years ago. The La Liga sides have been absolutely dominating recent years, and of course it won't be easy for neither of the two. Real Madrid are not having one of the best seasons, but their performance against Paris Saint-Germain showed what they're capable of doing in the Champions League. On the other hand, Barcelona, of course, are dominating La Liga. They have that Lionel Messi up front, and it'll be almost impossible for Roma to get past the Blaugrana. So let's start talking about Real Madrid against Juventus. The first leg will be in Turin on the 3rd of April. The return game at the Santiago Bernabeu on the 11th. Of course, Real Madrid are overall favourites, but the last time the two teams played each other in the 2014-2015 edition, Juve playing the first leg at home won 2-1 and then went to draw 1-1 in Madrid, making it eventually to the final. Those were the semi-finals. The most important game between the two sides, of course, is that Champions League final in 1998 with Mijatovic scoring that goal and giving the win to Real Madrid. Apart, of course, from the final in Cardiff last season. So when it comes to finals, it is Juventus to lose, but of course Juve also passed against Real Madrid in the 2001-2003 edition with, of course, a great Pavel Nedved, and then reaching the final and losing again against AC Milan. So some of the previous meetings between the two sides show that when there's a home and away game, Juve tend to be better than Real Madrid, at least in the recent decades. What has to be said is, of course, the fact that Real Madrid has been struggling in La Liga, and so are putting all their focus in the Champions League, and PSG will know that very well. Juventus, on the other hand, yes, of course, now they're 4 points clear of Napoli, but they'll be having to take a look at what happens in their domestic league as well, whereas, of course, Real can just focus on Europe. But, of course, fear not Juventini, because Juve's main focus is undoubtedly the Champions League, despite what Massimiliano Allegri says, despite what the club says. Of course, those are official words, but of course, Juve have won 6 Scudettos in a row, so they'll try their best to at least have a go again at reaching the final and play their cards in another chance to finally lift the Champions League. It hasn't happened since 1996 for the Bianconeri. Real Madrid are a team that are struggling. Let's have a look at it tactically as well. Cristiano Ronaldo started scoring in January. Of course, the Club World Cup has kind of changed the focus for the season, for the first half of the season, on getting that international trophy. The midfield is the same as last season: Casemiro, Modric and Kroos, with, of course, Asensio, Isco, Kovacic getting more playing time compared to last season. And overall, the team isn't too different to the one that beat Juve in Cardiff. Motivation could be key, of course, when you've got someone like Cristiano Ronaldo, who's an absolute machine, especially in the Champions League. He is always motivated. But Juve will probably want it more, and they'll have to focus on that as their main winning element, with, of course, hoping that Gonzalo Higuain maintains that form in big games that we've seen this season compared to sometimes in the past, bottling those games. Dybala will be the key man for Juve. That goes without saying, and the men in midfield, because against Modric and Kroos, trying to stop them is central, and then being able to quickly get the ball up front to Dybala, to Higuain, to Douglas Costa, who will add that speed that perhaps Juventus has lacked in international games previously. The prediction, let's give it our everything, go out there. I personally think Juventus will manage to go through to the next round. Don't ask me how, but they'll be in the semi-finals. Now going on to analysing Roma against Barcelona, with the Giallorossi that will first travel to Spain in the first leg, and then at the Olimpico received the Blaugrana. Now here, what has to be said is that, of course, if you look at on paper, there's no game. I mean, even Chelsea, who played quite well against Barcelona, didn't manage to score at all in the return, like conceding 3 goals. So it is one of those very difficult ones for Roma, but you know, it makes it more fascinating, more interesting. And Roma will have to focus on not conceding at all at home and hoping to not collapse in the first game at the Nou Camp, because of course they have conceded 0 goals this season at home at the Stadio Olimpico in the Champions League, and that's one of their milestones, one of their key elements to progress. Very difficult against a team like Barcelona not to concede at all in any single game. But of course, that will be, the defense will have to make a difference up front. A lot will go on Edin Dzeko's shoulders, also because he's a very physical striker, and these kind of players can give some problems to the Barcelona back line. On the other hand, we'll need a growth from someone like Rajan Angolan, who was key in scoring the decisive goals last season for Roma. He'll have to do the same in Barcelona. And obviously, on the other hand, hoping that Messi isn't, you know, at his top form, because he is literally unstoppable. And if he's not on top form, you know, you have to hope that Suarez, Dembele aren't doing their best either, because the firepower is absolutely insane. A prediction here, sadly, it seems almost impossible for Roma to progress. It's a bit obvious to say it on my behalf, but it will be Barcelona who will appear in the semi-finals. So let us know what you think will happen in the quarterfinals between the Roma and Barcelona and Juventus and Real Madrid. Who will go through? Who will be the key men? Of course, we'll see what happens then, beginning of April, if the Italian clubs can beat the Spanish ones. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We'll have more videos coming through, more articles, more analysis on the upcoming Champions League ties. We are on Twitter at Serie FFC, on Facebook / Forza Italian Football. It's all from me.